Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Seed Your Success podcast. So good to be with you today, and something that is heavy on my heart and I needed to bring to your attention, especially if you're a community leader, if you have a membership community, if you're a Facebook leader that has your own group on Facebook. This hit me like a ton of bricks, and I couldn't not speak it out into the ether after I read this email over and over again from a woman named Kelly Deals. Now, Kelly Deals is a beautiful woman who is really stretching into the future of building a feminine business, really built in liberation. And this concept around, are you a community or are you a group, really allowed me to step out and ask some of these different groups that I'm in and the leaders and ask them the question, based on this content, do you feel like you run a community or do you run a group? And so I wanted to put this out there in the ether to you today. And in the world of online marketing, one of the most common pieces of advice is this, is to go and start a Facebook group and use it as your test market. And mostly because people who join the group will see nearly everything you post. And that's how you beat the algorithms, and that prevent likes from being seen on Facebook. Now, I've taken all the courses and I totally get it. And I launched a Facebook, and I didn't really nurture it because it didn't feel a part of my core, it didn't feel part of the resonance that I wanted to create. Even as we're encouraged and we see online marketing businesses and spaces really starting to cultivate more groups and communities, it's very rare that they teach the skills that are necessary for really leading large groups or small groups or any size of groups. Now, knowing my background in clinical hypnotherapy and holding containers for groups in a resonance that were really going deep and filtering through our lenses and our true motivations and really allowing those hurts and that baggage to fluctuate and move out of these energetic holograms where they get stuck, I know that it is so core to hold that space, and it takes energy. As we reflect on the question, do you want to build or have you built a community or have you built a group? So, as culture making leaders, I really want us to focus on being cautious about using the language of community, in which Kelly explains so thoroughly in this piece, because it really creates this illusion of care and safety when there actually not might be any that exists in that function of that system, group, or community. So the question is, do you have a community or a group? So I'm going to run through these and I want you to really reflect. Now, a community isn't usually found by one person to advance their personal vision, their personal agenda, their goals. That's an empire, my friends. That is that hierarchical top, let's just call it BS of an empire. Really, it's not a community. So it's not, that's not okay, but just know the frameworks and the content that you're building around your group if you are leading it as a leader. Now, most community leaders are leading with an agenda to help people come into a next phase of themselves or their business or etc., which is totally fine. These can blend, but know where you personally stand in your resonance and why you're creating this gathering in the first place. And a community usually has elders or peers who help us resolve conflict, and we sustain each other through this as a community, right? So if there aren't any conflict resolution mechanisms, it's really not a community, it's a group. Now, a community also has lots of horizontal relationships, and people depend on each other for mutual care, for nourishment for each other. Call it survival, right? Back to the old medieval times. That's where these relationships, communities, and tribes were built. Now, the way I like to talk about it within the Growth Guild Collective is that it's really a permaculture. That's why I called it the Growth Guild, is because it is reflective on the very permaculture and how permacultures work. The ground nutrients, the mid tier, the branches, all the way to the tippy top, all regenerate each other. They all work together to make the base of the ecosystem stronger and to make it so effervescent, beautiful, and life giving. A community usually has multiple elders and leaders then with many different perspectives, right? So if you have a diverse community, you have a lot of engagement where there's different thought forms and perspectives and bursts of creativity that come together from those perspectives. A community usually is, and sometimes, in-person experience. It's bound in a physical space, which means you have an incentive to preserve those relationships. For example, if you're going down, I own an organic salon and spa. If you're going down to get your hair blow dried every week, you can't simply just shun your hairstylist and tell her what a piece of crap she is, right? Nor can they shun you, because you've got to try to figure out how you can move forward and really enjoy each other's company. And other community members will often facilitate that because they have to live there too, right? And so also a community will usually have shared projects, shared perspectives, mission, right? We get together for something bigger than ourselves and we build flow between each other. It is an infrastructure. Now, if you look at the flow frequency quiz that members come in with first and foremost, I built that flow frequency as a first rule of engagement, how pun and fun intended, to become a welcoming feature where everybody sees their uniqueness and where other members can maybe be of help to somebody else's blind spots. So it starts that instant engagement and it builds an infrastructure and a playground and a playhouse where we can come together and really facilitate what is our core element. And then how can we create flow, just like you would in a permaculture or an ecosystem, so that the water can get to me, so that I can roll the branches of the dynamo energy. I'm a wood, so I can create the branch of the idea, where then it goes over to summer. And the summer individuals, right, the blaze frequency is going to go out. They're going to tell everybody. They're going to get all their best friends involved. Maybe you're an affiliate, right? And then it goes down into the roots of the earth in the earth element. And that is where things are going to slow down. They're going to be nurtured. They're going to make sure that everything is just right so that it can then go over to steel and metal energy. And that is the winter season where you then move into mechanics of spreadsheets and multiplication. So you have innovation, you have magnification, and then all the way over to the side of multiplication. So we as community leaders, or if we want to build on, we have responsibilities to each other. We literally take care of each other in communities. We show up with soup, we pass the hat, we rally around people when they're grieving, we mediate conflict, we watch each other's kids, we take the dog, right? And these are the essences of a community. And I don't really think that's what's happening in most online or Facebook groups. And I've been in a ton of communities to see how they're building their communities. And I'm very conscientious because as a high achiever, I need to make sure that my energy is restored enough to be able to give to the community and then also be able to show up to expect other people in the community to feel like they have the same responsibility, that this is not my mission, this is our mission. For all of us to heal together and to build together, to really transition this old patriarchal way of building economies and really going back to a shared economy, the co-op, right? So this warps the color of these positive connotations of communities and how we approach them. It does. And that sometimes means that participants trust each other way too much or way too soon. And sometimes experiences really turn into heartbreak or materials being lost when the space or other members aren't really as safe as they expected. I've seen this time and time again. where we get in, we get really excited, we trust people way too soon, and we end up heartbroken and we feel like we're not heard or seen. And again, that's why the Growth Guild is actually trauma informed and purpose aware. And those ways that we may have been hurt and then just left and not seen in other communities, there's a reason why. And that also sometimes means that the owner or the founder of the space, notice I'm not saying a leader, underestimates their influence and their responsibility. So when they think of the group as a community, they may think falsely that the power relations are more harmonious and horizontal, like our permaculture example, than they in fact really are. And thus they take the precautions or see around corners to protect people in the group from each other. They may not account for how much power they as the founder really have, and may haven't really thought through these different elements of how deep a community really is and how much work it takes and how much it is as much to do to disseminate and also facilitate the power to others. So they may not even have the skills to steward that kind of power effectively. Now, there's a great book. I've read through it, I've skimmed through it. I haven't read the whole thing, but it's essential if you're really looking for understanding power dynamics. And it's from the author Cedar Barstow. And the book is called Living in the Power Zone. Highly recommend it. It's all valuable to really see how leaders show up in community. And I think that the positive life-giving association really truly with the word community might make members think of it as a safer place than it is, or that people will take care of each other in the group, or they will stay in with the challenging times and the challenging interactions and try to de-escalate and resolve them rather than escalating them and abandoning them and feeling like we're traumatized once again and we leave. This is not how economies are built or societies are built. This is the core meaning of the Growth Guild and building safe spaces and being able to go 10 miles deep versus 10 miles wide. And so all of this, my friends, is a recipe for disaster, for real harm. And so I think using this language, that community is really a distraction from real power dynamics. It means we might be seeking out the wrong tools or motives for managing these spaces. And I also think that online marketers aren't necessarily supporting us in teaching us what's really involved in holding space for groups. And even when we're advised to look at community building practices to implement our groups, the advice of those tools is not trauma informed and it has a base assumption that isn't accurate. So if a Facebook group is not a community, then community tending practices might not work for your Facebook group. And so I think it's really incredible to really look at this. It was really hit me like a brick to bring this to my attention. And as I really think deeply before pushing full steam ahead on sustaining a community and what that means for everybody that comes in. So Kelly gives this really great example of this online group as a crowd at a concert, if they're really large. And the reframe is at a concert, a whole bunch of people from many different backgrounds are there to see a band or a musician that they enjoy and that they might have something in common with the style of music, the food there. They're not there for each other or to help build each other. They might meet someone they become friends with, but the truth is they're just not even really there for each other. They're there for the experience, and that's totally fine. And because there are lots of people and we don't know them all, there's security rules and processes for the entry. That's non-negotiable. That's great. But there are also predators and thieves and assholes that keep your money and do stupid shit from their iPhones in their pocket. Even with security, it's not a safe space. So that means that concert organizer, quote unquote, the Facebook group owners, have to really think about the design of the experience and the security and how you show up and perform. That's very different than community building. It requires very different tools and practices. And that's why I have no problem saying that the Growth Guild is a trauma informed, purpose aware, meaning purpose aware. We're looking at the big picture of the group and where we all want to go, AKA respark our creativity, come back to our true essential nature, really start to leverage other people that maybe fill spots that we don't like doing, and create flow between each other that reaches out into the greater world. And the community and the safety is brought in through trauma informed, meaning everything that we do has conscientiousness to it. We don't blame people for not having the right mindset. And we go 10 miles deep in group hypnotherapy so that we are time sensitive people. We're busy entrepreneurs and we're highly driven. That means you come in, you do deep dives once a month and deep group hypnotherapy sessions where we hold each other in resonance, carries profound amplification in the energy field that everybody benefits from in a safe container. And you also get to see from experience how others hold that safe container, including myself. Again, it's very different than community building that requires different tools and practices from the Facebook group. So I just think that we need to be productive and effective and maybe sometimes less romantic about what we do with online groups and communities. So I know that as I first started to think about a community, I got really caught up in what everybody else was doing. Is it cohort? Is it courses? Is it this? Is it that? And I have all of these things to add value in, but my community core comes together through my background as a hypnotherapist, someone that has run multiple businesses and has created experiences for people all of my life. That's all I do in a safe measure. And that then it spills over into everything else that I do. And I'm not going to be perfect. But the thing that I wanted to note here is that what do you want to call your online group or community? Is it a gathering space? Maybe not necessarily a community. How do you envision your online group? Like a space? Is it in a public park? Where do people gather? Do they just play chess together? They might, from regular proximity to each other, become really good friends. Or they might just want to swap a game or two and move on. And that's okay too. It can be all of the above and it can be none of them. But really start to think about, go really deep. How do you want people to come in and leave your space, whatever that container is? How safe is it? And as we move out of this galactic trauma, post-trauma growth world, my core goal is to really help people build relationships back to self and with each other. That doesn't mean everybody has to come in and be kumbaya and spend tons of time in the community. But it means that you come in and get what you need, you laugh, you respark your creativity, you use the resources, and we build together and we heal together through group hypnotherapy sessions. That's where my leadership comes in. On the peripherals, everybody else is creating by their true element and their true essence and their true nature. And we build together and then we go back out into the world. We come together, we facilitate our personal needs, going deeper and deeper, calibrating all levels of consciousness, and we become sovereign. And then we go out and we come back. So there's this inner weaving, this breathing, thinking about a belly, just breathing in and out. That is the essence of the breath, of the ebb and the flow of coming in and nurturing and going out and spreading and making sure that you are nourished every step of the way so that we can finally heal entrepreneurial trauma, in which I call high achiever stress disorder. And we start with ourselves first, and then we go out and we reflect on what we truly want to see in the world. All my love, all my light. I hope you got some insight from this. And so I ask you, are you building a group or are you building a community? And be honest. And then start to extend what that really is for those that are involved around you and what you're growing. And whatever that is, it's just as exciting, either side. just make sure you know that village that you're building is tendered and cared for, has the education and the organization and really the material to really build up the tools and the resourcefulness for everybody that is involved. That way, you can better navigate with skill and a core understanding that may change over time, but now you know that you know. All my love, all my lights. Let me know your feedback. And if you like more info on the Growth Guild, please let me know because it's beautiful permaculture has so much richness in it. And I would love to have you join us. All my love, all my light.